Hello, hello. Just wanted to say hello to Berlin. Heard that it is very rainy in Berlin, so thank you for coming over. And we have a pretty exciting conversation with Kim Assendorf and Ollie, and a surprise guest of a platform they'll be launching on Shape. So really excited to show everything. We are a little bit behind. Apologies for that. Some technical troubles. All has been resolved. And hopefully, I hope in Berlin you can hear me pretty good. That is my hope. Without further ado, let's get into it. I wanted to show or give you an introduction to Shapecraft, and it'll be a very quick one. Then we'll proceed right into a conversation with Kim Assendorf and Ollie, and I'm really excited for that. All right, so Shapecraft. Shapecraft is a hackathon for both artists and devs, and it's a chance to create worlds. And a little introduction about myself: I'm Bonafide Han, and I'm the founder of Shape and Deca, also part of 6529 Capital, and I also collect some art. And the worlds that we're talking about will be built on Shape, a new ETH L2. And what is exciting about building new worlds? Well, the part that is interesting, I think, for worlds built on crypto is that you can create worlds that have shared state. So today, when you play a game, when you create a world and it's hosted on a server somewhere, you enter that world and then you do lots of stuff in it. Let's say you upgrade in that game, you upgrade weapons, you upgrade your character, and then once you step outside of it, that world no longer exists. And with storing all this stuff on let's say a blockchain, I think there's a really interesting way where that state can actually be used inside of multiple worlds. I'll give you a quick example. So this project recently launched, and I'll tell you more about it. It looks like a poker chip. You take a look, and it indeed is a poker chip, but it is also an atom. So it is a representation of a fictional atom with the element name Bn and has all these properties like radius, density, and stability. And you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. And once you have atoms, you have, or an element, you have many elements. And once you have many elements, you can organize them according to a periodic table. And here's the periodic table of these elements in that universe. And once you have elements, you can combine them into compounds. So here is a molecule composed of 3 different types of elements. And this molecule is composed of, or has these properties. And the really interesting part about this whole universe is that this compound, the properties, the elements, they all have properties that are derived procedurally. So it's almost like a simulation of a kind of rules of physics and chemistry. And it's actually computed as opposed to hard-coded. So this is a great example of a world that has been created in NFTs that kind of simulates chemistry and physics, and it can create this whole new world of crafting. And this project, here's the UI. It is live today. You can go to otom.xyz, and you can mint these elements, these atoms. You can combine them in a lab, and they all have these like very interesting properties. And it itself is kind of an exploration game, as in you kind of think about the chemistry rules that you learned about in high school. The high school in American terminology, but like you remember it from school, and you're like, okay, what are these valence electrons? You know, how do we make sure that 2 elements can combine? And then you can formulate compounds. And this project is called Autumn, and it's by an artist named Ketchel Goulid. And you might be familiar with his works like Archetype. So this is a great example of the kind of world that can be created in NFTs, and it's a persistent world. As in, if you mint an atom, you can you can have the atom in your hands, and it actually exists, and it has all these like metadata properties. So it's a universe that has been created. And so let's take an example of how the world of atoms can be used to build on top of to be built on top. So here's that favorite compound that we saw just a moment ago. And suppose you wanted to create this world of weapons. Here's a sword. Let's say you're creating weapons like swords, and it has like some attack point property, right? It's a good sword. Let's say it's a good sword. But suppose you can say you can infuse that sword with additional powers. And how do you do that? Well, you say that the sword is made of atoms, and then you can apply a single atom to the sword. And the atom has a procedurally generated, essentially simulated property called hardness. And the higher the hardness, the more powerful your weapon becomes. It's like a multiplier. And suddenly the race is on to find the highest hardness across all compounds. And I can see a world where, suppose this game takes off and we want more powerful weapons because that's what you want in that world, right? Well, there will be a race to kind of find the best atom that you can use, and then once people find it, and there's demand for that compound, I can totally imagine a world where kind of these like factories are stood up, and then these factories produce to meet the market demand of this compound. And then once there's enough, or once the price it no longer provides a profit, the factory just disappears, and then another factory is stood up for another compound that needs to be made. That shows the kind of depth of world building that is possible in this kind of structure, and it just causes all this imagination that I have about like things that can happen. Um, Now, what's interesting about Shape also is that it has a feature called gasback. So in gasback, really interesting. Um, when you own a contract on Shape, 80% of the transactions, 80% of the sequencer fees of the transactions that are executed against your contract, it goes back to you. So if lots of people are executing transactions against your contract, then 80% of those sequencer fees goes back to you, and it's built-in monetization for the world that you have chosen to create. So what's really interesting about that is it completely inverts expectations and incentives of how people create things. So in today's world, let's say of Web 2, let's say you create something that's like really interesting, and lots of people want to incorporate it. It becomes a cultural icon, and you try to protect your cultural your contributions by saying, hey, in order to use my stuff, you got to license it, you got to pay me money, and then you have to kind of combatively protect it. And that's the way that the world's economy is set up today for so-called intellectual property. And in the world of Shape, it's completely inverted because of gasback. So suppose you create, in this example, let's say somebody creates this complex system of land. You can build things on top. You can, and the land itself can incorporate atoms. Let's say when you mint a piece of land, it actually mints like 100 of these atoms, and it's embedded inside of the land. That's a great example of like a world built on top of another world. Well, in this world, the moment that the land calls autumn contract functions, the autumn contract actually gets accounted for in the gasback. So the reason it completely inverts everything is because now the creator of Autumns, a Guled, he is actually incentivized, and everyone will be incentivized to make sure that lots of things are built on top of Autumns, and it has to be like done in the most permissionless way possible. Everybody can build on top, and the more people build on top, the more gas back the creator gets. So it's such a powerful system, and I think it will change everything. And one thing I'll also add is that Gasback really is that missing piece, I think, of open source. With open source, there was no mechanism to incentivize people to keep things up to date, to make sure that the people who are contributing to open source have their contributions rewarded in this world of Shape. Well, the more people use your libraries, the more people use your code, you automatically get rewarded by the network. and it's called Gasback, and I think it's very powerful. The last thing I'll say about world building on Shape is you can create worlds to be designed to be played, and I'll give you a quick example. So DK, another great artist, has created his universe on Shape, and they're called deeples. What is a deeple? Well, here's an avatar, and this avatar is a plain character, doesn't have anything associated with it. But you can say, hey, I'm going to put on some pants, and then I'll put on a hoodie and a shirt, and then something got stuck. Okay, now I can put hat, glasses, and you can even change it with a Halloween mask, which was a special edition item that you could put on Deeples as part of the release last Halloween. But a great example of an avatar that actually is intended to be playable in 2D and 3D sprites eventually. But a great example of another world where it is designed to be played and incorporated into different worlds. And here is a great example. An artist named Jarvin Art had created some beautiful art, and she put her Deeple inside of the art, and it kind of evokes this feeling of, well, you can have a lot of you can have Deeples running around in all these like environments that'll be created. So that is the Deeple project, and to wrap things up, here's what we're doing on Shape. We are what we believe to be. We are bootstrapping what we think is going to be the web of NFTs. So the web of NFTs is basically all these NFTs programmatically talking to each other and doing crazy things that we in the past did not expect. In the last cycle of NFTs, we expected NFTs to be kind of inert. So you can buy NFTs, you can of course mint them, but you can buy them, you can hold them, you can sell them, and that was pretty much it. But in this cycle, as NFTs they see the power of L2s where you can do computation, you can do storage, they will start doing really cool things. And the web of NFTs, I think, will be born on Shape. And I gave you two great examples of things that just expand your mind on what NFTs really could be. And the other thing is that the web of NFTs must be born on decentralized rails. And I view this as kind of like a personal mission in life that we must ensure that the web of NFTs is born on decentralized rails. And all the properties and all the reasons why we all got into crypto is preserved, that these are not censorable, that these are things that you actually own. It cannot be controlled by others. So these things, this goal is will take time, and but it is something that is very important to me and important to Shape. Cool. So that was the intro to Shape and Shapecraft. Here's my contact info. Would love to chat with you. Let me know, and we can now dive into the conversation with Kim Assendorf and Ollie. Let me bring everyone up. Okay, so let me take off the slides. Kim and Norman, of Ollie, and welcome to the stage, Kim.
Hi everyone.
Amazing, and also welcome to the stage, Ollie.
Hi. This way. Yeah.
Amazing. We are gonna do a really interesting panel. First off, I just wanted to introduce both of our guests. First, Kim Assendorf is a conceptual and digital artist known for works like Cargo and creating widely used techniques like pixel sorting. Has created incredible art that I really admire, and we can talk more about that. And then Ollie, founder of Voya Games, and has had a previous exit, a Web2 gaming exit of $160 million, now building in Web3 gaming. Thank you both for joining. And how is the rain in Berlin?
Great. Yeah, we all got a bit wet, I guess, when we came here. So yeah, it's a lot of rain, typical Berlin winter is starting. I think a lot of people will flee soon after Christmas to warmer places. But it's the Berlin thing. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks again to Berlin for making it out here when it was raining so heavily. And Kim, I see the piece of art that's in the background. That's an incredible display.
Yes, thank you. It's a little LED wall that I have here for mostly testing and doing a little home show from time to time.
Amazing. I think that's a brilliant display. The one kind of like question that I kind of wanted to get into to get us started is you both come from such different backgrounds, but then each of you discovered NFTs and it changed how you create art, or it changed how you create games. So the first question is, what was it about NFTs that kind of changed everything for you?
So so for me it was like in 21 where there was like the big hype around like gaming and NFTs. I was just transitioning out of my previous startups, so I had a lot of time to look around and go down the rabbit holes. So yeah, it kind of opened up a whole new world for me. In the beginning, I read about it in some newspapers, like NFTs are selling for very high prices, and it's just some pictures from stupid-looking monkeys and so on. But yeah, then I really got deeper into it, and especially for gaming, I found it very interesting because it kind of changes up a lot of things by owning NFTs. So in usual traditional games, you basically always just have like the right to use an asset in a game, right? You never really own it. It's like saved on a centralized database. The game developer can at any time like wipe it. You're not allowed to do whatever you want with it. If you sometimes trade your account or something like this on a black market, they are allowed to ban you and completely get rid of all your assets. And yeah, everything changed with NFTs, where you now for the first time really own these assets. You can decide what you do with them, and if you're not clicking any weird links, nobody can take them away from you. And that opened up, especially in the 21 cycle, a lot of new use cases. So there was Axie Infinity, one of the most popular Web3 games at the time, which basically established these scholarship models where investors bought NFTs that they rent out to players so they can play and earn money, and then there's a revenue share. So this is like kind of expanding a bit, like also outside of the pure game, like kind of it's still like kind of a competitive game, like the scholarship models in itself, but it's not happening inside the game, but it was happening outside of the game and opening up a whole new kind of economy. And that's just one of the things it opens up. And like what you also said about the world building of these atoms, and that you can use them and have a web of games that are all interconnected with different NFTs or tokens. I think that's very exciting, so that there's more like dependencies between games, and you first don't need to start from scratch all over again. It's like state you can take to another game. And if you want to get certain assets, you can play this game and then combine it with other assets from another game. And that's, I think, super exciting use case as well. And last but not least, modding is also very interesting for gaming, right? Some of the most successful games out there were created through modding, let's say Counter-Strike, for example, or Dota. And the problem here is like that you never had the access to the state. You were referring to this before, right? So if you're modding, you're building a new game, but the players who are playing the original game, they can't take anything with you to the mod. But as like in a blockchain, everything is saved transparently. It's like basically a big database where everyone has access to. You can actually mod a game and also transfer the state to your mod. And I think that opens up a lot of great opportunities as well. So yeah, at some point I looked at all of these things and decided, hey, I want to build something in the space as well. And then started actually Wire Games.
Amazing, thank you. And how about for you, Kim? I know you come from a background of initially, like, I mean, of course you had a digital art background, but also conceptual art. And then what was it about NFTs that kind of like, just like gave you a spark of what it could be for art?
Yeah, I would say I grew pretty naturally into it. I grew up with computers and therefore, yeah, let's say digital art. So I've always been interested in how can I use a computer creatively, and started with music and graphic design, etc. Building my own websites for the stuff I created. And yeah, basically that landscape around me grew and shifted from literally web 1 to web 2, where you suddenly had more than a website. You had social media, you had APIs, where you could play with. So the playground basically to put your art online changed a lot with web 2, and created new possibilities for conceptual artworks and setups and constructs that were there to explore. And yeah, at some point this all grew a bit into chaos, and I would say the landscape get too big and too wide again. And yeah, then web3 basically just created a new landscape where you saw free land, so to speak, where that you can discover, or that you can farm, or that you can just play with. And so it was more or less the interest and yeah, a new tool that I wanted to explore in the first place. And yeah, so I mean, I've no gaming background or anything like that. Of course, I play.
Looks like we've lost Kim. Let me just text him really quick. So until we get Kim back, and Ollie, you can hear me still, right?
Yep.
No, excellent. Yeah, I completely agree with you about the modding. I think the modding culture in games was an early indicator of like how passionate a community could be about the worlds that they're building. Because a lot of these modders, they spend like meaningful chunks of their life kind of like building out that world. So a question that I actually wanted to ask you, because I think you were very involved in Web2 gaming, like what is a way that we could, how do we engage that audience of people who could create worlds, and it becomes world building in their own sovereign way, as opposed to modding in a world that is owned by, let's say, a specific company.
Yeah, I think there's two ways. So I think in the Web 2 world, it was, yeah, as you said, always like a very passionate community around a specific game. So yeah, basically Counter-Strike, for example, were probably like a lot of passionate Half-Life players that just wanted to create something on top of this, and by Valve opening up the code for them that they can use it and build on top of stuff that enabled them to do so. So I think it's probably a combination of access to either be open source code or code in general, and also a passion. And I think, yeah, this is already kind of available in the Web3 space, but I think it's still not there yet. And I think we just need to find ways in how either to get like people very excited about this new playground, like these modders, or also like kind of create a very good game in the beginning or something they can build on top of where they're already passionate about. I think these are two ways, but then I think the last thing could also be incentives, right? And what you also described earlier, I think that's very, very interesting about like participating in the success of the game you're modding by integrating their NFTs and tokens and get back the gas that users spent on the smart contracts. So I think that incentive could also lead for more modders to actually come into the space and try out things, since they can very easily kind of monetize their mods by basically just integrating the game assets of something else. So yeah, I think that's super interesting. I think like kind of need to push this out to the developers and get them to know about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Kim, welcome back. Can you hear us?
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I had to reload or start a new tab.
Technology. Technology never works when we rely on it. That moment when we need it. But Kim, one question that I wanted to ask is, so you created a work called Monogrid, and then the work is basically, as I understand it, it's like an n by n grid. So it's a grid of multiple tokens, and each token expresses some visual characteristic. But the interesting part that I found was like it almost was a gamified piece of art, in the sense that the closer you get to the center, the higher the price was, and then you increase the complexity of the work as you got to the center. And the question I had for you was like, um, uh, how did you feel designing that whole system, and the community, I assume, that spawned out of that work?
Yeah, I consider my work usually as a world indeed. Yeah, so not a world like we imagine our world we live in, but something more like, like a movie where you go in, or a song. Yeah, something where you can get lost in, like a book or whatever. So but a single piece doesn't feel enough for me to create this whole illusion where I can escape reality for some time and just be something spiritual, even, like just consuming something that I prefer to say not even understand. So it's not like, okay, there is something like a tree or a house where I can understand what it is. So I want to use the computer to find some things that I cannot really understand, and that maybe displays something like a system that is somehow autonomous, but also feels like a simulation of something you may understand. So it's this this in between, understanding, not understanding. What is it, and why does it do anything to me? And this is basically what I'm into. And sure, if you work with a system and if you build systems, you define rules, and that's also the conceptual part of the work. You define a rule set. You need to limit yourself within a certain paradigm to not build a whole metaverse, or a world that is a replica or replica of the real world. So it's abstract, but it's an abstract world in itself. And so I found your take on this interaction between these, let's call it sub-worlds or mini worlds or parts of worlds, extremely interesting. And but on the other hand, there is this fine line between games and art, and which is something that I'm very interested in. Where do I cross this line? When do I create an artwork where more people say, oh no, this is a game, which is what I don't want to create. Yeah, so it's not a value thing of what I prefer, but if I want to create an artwork, it shouldn't be a game. Yeah, so for me it's something like two separate things. Yeah, even if there's a lot of art in games and you need artists to make good games, um, I'm more interested in the digital object, and I mean that's also comes from my love to nice objects, yeah, and physical artworks, but the digital object, or something that is pure digital, is for me and for my understanding an object, and that is a very interesting thought. Yeah, it's basically, I mean, obviously it's not an object like the classical definition of an object, but it becomes an object, and that's the digitalization, or my aspect of the digitalization that interests me a lot, or the most. And so I build worlds that are not games, but somehow a collection or a series of, I would say, prestigious objects, from at least for me, that are meant to be like this. And by owning or collecting them, you can be part of this world. And I mean, on the other hand, these worlds are online and accessible to anybody, so you don't even need to own something to feel it. But yes, since I believe in digital objects, this ownership is also a very interesting construct that I like to play with.
I totally agree with you on all that stuff. It's I think the word actually game is it's such a narrow word. All the things that we're doing, like for example, when you describe like artists are creating worlds, and the world that they're creating has its own rules, and often has like a visual aspect of it for visual artists. But and then people participate by collecting these like prestigious objects, and that itself is really like a game as well. And often there's like set collecting. You collect, let's say there's like 5 different attribute properties, and you collect a set, and it's a really fun like exercise to collect it. I feel like NFTs are some of the most fun things that fun systems that you can create. I just wanted to give a really quick example. Let's see if it works. I haven't done this before. Okay, I am going to upload a video. Okay. What you are seeing is it's a piece of art by Kubibi, and I'm sure Kim knows Kubibi. And it's a new piece of art which is interactive. It's an eye, and you can move it, and it's like has different sounds. The reason I show this is this piece of art has actually been incorporated into Shapecraft, in the sense that builders, artists, they can actually say that the eye has like power in whatever universe that they'll create. So it's like a pretty interesting way that art can intersect with what is considered what would be considered like pure gaming. But this eye, we've asked creators, builders, and artists to kind of give it power. So like in some world that somebody creates, this eye may actually give you, for your character, it might actually give you like a higher like sight or something, or you may be able to see something more inside of this universe. So it's a pretty interesting intersection, just unbounded in how I think what the worlds that artists have created could intersect with other worlds. So that wasn't a question, but just wanted to give that as an example.
Yeah, I also think that the lines are with Web3, especially in NFTs, like between art and games, and maybe even more things are getting more blurred. So it's not just about like only art and only games. It's like they're more interconnected, and therefore they're becoming like kind of breaking the boundaries between them. I think that's very interesting to combine all of these things. You can also have music with art combined, with music with games. You can all have all three together. So I think this opens up a lot of great ways on how to create new cool things, whatever they are, if they are art or games or something in between. But I think it will definitely get rid of these boundaries, because everything is just accessible on this blockchain. Everyone can pick it up, and there could then also be like kind of incentives between the creators to actually do something together in order to create something greater even. And yeah, I think that's super interesting.
I totally agree. And then we have just a couple of minutes left. And also, I'm just double checking the video is longer playing. Okay, cool. Last question that I wanted to ask you both was, and we'll hop into the Q&A, which will be a little bit shorter. It'll be a 10-minute Q&A from the audience in Berlin, and also in the live stream, the 150 people who are listening on live stream. We'll jump into that in a bit. But before that, the last question I want to ask you both is, I think we had a pretty rich and interesting conversation about like the potential of world building, both in art and games, that are afforded by this thing called NFTs. To all the builders, to all the artists, to all the creators who are listening, and who might be listening, who might listen to the recording later, what are some of the things that you would like to see from them? Like, what worlds, what new boundaries should they push? What are the things that excite you?
Yeah, I think there's also this two sides. Yeah, not just games and art. I'm sure, yeah, these lines are blurring, but there are things that are created by many people, which means they average out at some level. It's like if 100 people create something together, you have the average of 100 people within something. And on the other hand, if you create something as a single person and with the intention to create art, I think it has much more potential to be absurd and crazy, because you don't have too many opinions. Yeah, there's this phrase, okay, too many cooks. I don't even know how to translate it. It's a German phrase, but yeah. So I'm looking for these weird things that pop up somewhere, and I'm not looking for the solution for any or for everything, or these everything is connected. It's super interesting, and I'm really looking forward what will happen there. But I'm also looking for these weird things that will happen that on first view doesn't make sense, but it's a bit like the atoms and the ships. For me, it doesn't really come together. Yeah, these two things. I mean, make a visualization of atoms. Yeah, it looks like an atom, whatever. But that's something weird, and I hope there will be more like these weirdness, and crazy things, conceptual things that can happen, and but not the most obvious. Like, okay, you have a character here, and you can put it now in a game here. That is, I mean, like, okay, we will see that, we will experience that, but that's nothing that really excites me. And but somebody will misuse it into something really crazy, and then it becomes the thing that I want to see.
Great. Yeah, that's I also like to explore like what crazy things will come out, and I think the the creativity can be totally unbound, so you can do whatever you want in this world. Yeah, so for me, I would like to see really a blockchain becoming a world in itself, where there's not just silos, but they're really interconnected. And if we look at the blockchain, even if we are one blockchain only, the Ethereum blockchain, for example, there are multiple projects. There's NFT projects, there's infrastructure, decentralized exchanges, or DeFi, and so on and so forth. But they sometimes have some dependencies between each other, but they're still very much silos. And I would really like to see kind of a blockchain becoming an interconnected world between different projects, and everyone can pick it up, and that even kind of everything that the blockchain kind of offers is basically represented in a world. It could even be a block explorer that could just look like a 3D world, for example. So kind of really get immersed in combining the infrastructure and all the protocols that running on there with all the great NFT projects or gaming projects, that it kind of becomes a world that you as a user can explore instead of going from one project to another to another. I think that's something I would like to see in the future.
Exciting. Both of these I think will be really interesting things that will happen. And I think a lot of we have over 730 people at this signed up, I believe, at this time. And so I think a lot of them are going to surprise us with, and many of them are actually 150, I believe, are artists, and then the rest are categorize themselves. 200 maybe. I forget the exact numbers, but I think they will surprise us, and it will be really interesting. I think a lot of people found all these insights to be really cool. Let's jump into Q&A from the Berlin audience and also from the live streamers. If there's any questions, we'd love to answer them, the two of you, I think. And then after that, we will have one last section, and then we're done. Any questions from Berlin?
Come on, guys. There's one. Ollie, maybe you can repeat it if you
Okay, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. The question is about hackathon. Is there any categories that we could look at, like for artists, game projects, and so on?
I guess it's a question for you, Bona. The question was about the hackathon. Are there any categories inside the hackathon, specifically for gaming or artists?
I can answer that in a little bit. So I'll have a video that I think will just, given how delayed the start of the event was, I'll just kind of briefly go over it, and I can answer that very briefly.
If nobody has a question, I'll ask one. You have one? I have one.
Yeah, but it's not directly connected to the tech aspects, and not even the hackathon. I was just curious about a more abstract subject that you kind of opened up. You, especially Kim, I think, talked about the artistic aspects of the world that you want to build. You said I forget your name. I'm sorry.
Ollie.
You talked about that too. With that, for me, in my understanding of things, comes always a sense of meaning. So I'm wondering, where did you see meaning in this?
So the question was where we see meaning in these artistic worlds that we generate. Was more or less the question.
Cool.
Sorry.
You can come up here.
You can also come up and
because Kim cannot hear back there. Should I?
Yeah, maybe it's better if you explain it in your words.
All right. Speaking to the laptop and the mic.
Hi guys.
Hello.
I was told to come here because you can't hear me from the audience. My question is not that much about the technical aspects or the hackathon, more on a more, how can I say, abstract concept that you kind of introduced earlier. I think especially Kim and Ollie talked about that too. about seeing the worlds that you built as pieces of art or works of art. And with the word art, there always comes this the sense of meaning. At least for me, in my understanding of the word, it's always attached to a sense of meaning. So I'm wondering, where do you see meaning in what you do and in this world that you create? Especially with this project.
In general, you mean, like, for me as an artist, I would basically say the opposite: art has no meaning, and if it has a meaning, it's not art anymore, then it's a message, or it's propaganda or whatever. So, but that's the good thing about art. Yeah, it can be anything, and the meaning for me comes from my own personal curiosity. Yeah, if I see something that captures me and I want to understand it, and I want to spend time with it, there's the meaning for me and for my work. But it's not like I have a message, or I mean, I did also political art for some time, yeah, where you have the feeling, okay, this has a meaning, yeah, this has a higher goal, but I didn't want to feel bad when I'm interacting, yeah, let's say, with art as a spectator or as a creator. I want to escape. I want to dive in my own world, live in it, and really just be there. And that's the meaning. And I hope, and I think some people, at least feel the same when they get into my work. Yeah, they can just get lost for some time, and there is where the meaning comes from. It should be very individual, and not everybody has to understand this work like this, because that is the meaning of it. That is not really what I'm looking for. There's Raphael Rosendahl said it quite nice. Art is like a joke. If you have to explain it, it's maybe not so good.
I'm with you. I think you misunderstood me. I don't mean a message that you're trying to convey. I mean your personal meaning, actually. That what drives you in doing that. That's what I was talking about, because I feel like you explained it pretty well right now. It's about understanding, right? It's about creation in itself, as far as
exactly. I think I tried to point that out a bit by saying that at the beginning, that I really grow with digital technologies all my life. Yeah, like from early Game Boying to now, whatever, everything is digital, and everything has this potential or power to be hacked. And that is something that feels really powerful for me. Yeah, you can even buy a synthesizer and change the circuits in it. You can, I mean, hack software. You can write your own software. So I'm just a guy with a laptop, and I create everything just like that. Yeah, so it doesn't matter where I am. I'm at my computer. That's all I need, and I can express myself. I don't have, like I said, a message behind it. The message is like, hey, look, this is possible, this is interesting, that is something I haven't seen, and I can surprise myself, and that is the meaning for me. And it's definitely a huge part of getting away from reality to a safe space, to a world that I feel cozy within somehow, and that I seem at least to understand, or this is my language in a way.
Cool, thanks. You want to expand on that?
Yeah, so I guess when you build games, you probably like the meaning of building games is like most of the times bringing joy to the people. I think like I always like find it super cool like how engaged people are getting by playing games. We recently had an event from our game here in Berlin, and there were people flying from the US over for 3 days, for leaving the first time the US, just like because enjoy the game, want to be part of this community. And I think this gives me a lot of motivation to build these games, these experiences for the players. And I think especially in Web3 now, we can create digital worlds which can be more than just games, and like real like kind of a canvas for for creativity. And I think that's just super exciting, like kind of trying out different things in a safe world. Like you can't die, for example, but you can still try to mimic a lot of the great things in the real world, but also create like really crazy things that are not possible in the real world. So yeah, expanding on the digital worlds that we already have right now, but like really make it a second home for crazy experiences, I would say. I think that's super interesting to me, and that's why I want to explore, especially like these Web3 space, which offers at least like a lot around this ownership and interoperability mechanics to create these worlds. And then of course there's a lot of other things that play into it, like creating immersive experiences. Also very excited about AR and VR coming up in the future, and also AI who lets basically people be way more creative, like bring their creativeness from the mind into a world by not needing to know how to program, for example, anymore, not needing to be really excellent in drawing or something like this. So I think like bringing all of these technologies together in the end will create a very interesting canvas for creativity. And I think that will be creating a really cool digital world experiences.
Thanks.
Amazing. Pretty deep conversation. Loved it. Thank you very much, Kim and Ollie. And Ollie will be hanging around. And so if anybody wants to talk more with Ollie, it'll be amazing. Kim Assendorf, of course, online, and then can be found everywhere. Thank you both for joining us for this wonderful chat. I really enjoyed it. All right. Okay, so I will remove.
Regards to Berlin.
Thank you. I'll remove Kim from the stage. Thank you, Kim. And then I'll leave. I'll remove Norman Ollie from the stage briefly. So we just have really short couple things, and that's it. And I hear the food is ready in Berlin, so I'm sure everyone's hungry. So let's rush through it, and you can enjoy the food. The first thing is,
if you're in.
So let me pause it. It will be a pretty quick overview. So overall, there's $250,000 up for grabs in this hackathon, and there are 700. So there's I think above 730 at this point. 730 people have signed up, which is a pretty amazing. And this is kind of the breakdown of the people who are in it. About artists 150, coders about 560. Definitely check out if you want to form teams with people. We will have a session which will not apply to the Berlin crew, but in about like 24 minutes at the 30-minute mark, there'll be a team formation session that you can attend inside the Shape Discord, and then you can of course say, hey, I'm trying to build this thing. Are people looking around? And you can find people. So let me proceed to. These are the question about, okay, what are the specific things that have prizes? There's like several tracks. There's an existing world track where you can build on top of existing worlds. There's a new worlds track. You can build on top of new worlds. And there's two other like supplementary prizes, and I'll cover one of them. The existing tracks, and I'm kind of guessing where I'm just like moving the cursor, trying to find where the slide changes. So, here it is. Existing worlds. There's DeepL by DK, Movable Type by DefBeef, Autumn by Gulad. These are the existing worlds that you can build on top of. DeepL is a customizable avatar. Movable Type is letters and words. Autumn is like elements and compounds, and you can build really cool things on top. And then for new worlds, it's a completely clean slate, whatever you want to build. And then the new world can also incorporate these things, but we wanted to have a like we wanted to have a category that says if you created something that's majority like new thing and it's like a new world that you want to create, that's the prize category that you'll go into. And then there's this concept. So just as we discussed, these objects can persist across worlds. There's a key, and then there's an eye. So the eye is actually a work of art by Kubibi, and it's on Shape mainnet, and it can be purchased for a very low price. But essentially, we're encouraging people to, for example, give this eye power in the universe that you're creating. Same exact thing for the key. We're encouraging people to give the key power by both the eye and the key having some kind of utility in the worlds that you're creating. The distribution for the eye is purchasable, and the distribution for the key is earnable. You can basically, there's a little game that Dan Nolan from Alchemy, whom you can see at the bottom right corner, he has created a game, and if you complete the game, it's a fun little game actually, you will earn the key, and it's actually pretty cool. And then let me proceed to communication. Everything is in Discord. Come to the Shape Discord, and it's the primary place. And then Alchemy University. If you have details or questions about how to build in Web3, definitely check that out as well. The team formation stuff will also happen on Shape Discord. So see you there. And then here's a schedule. It's 4 weeks of various things. We have like check-ins that are happening every Tuesday, and on Fridays we have feedback sessions that we'll set up. So if you need help, jump into the Shape Discord, and keep in mind that these 4 weeks can go by pretty fast. Let's see. I think the last couple things are okay. So how should you structure this week? The 4 weeks. First week, kind of get find the team members, spend time on that, start working on MVP. Then on week 2, get your MVP into working state. Week 3, try to bring it into mainnet, and then finally week 4, polish and video submission. Yeah, finding a team. Definitely today at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, which is in a couple minutes, 20 minutes, there will be a team formation session led by Dan Nolan. But then if you can't make that, jump into the Shape Discord and holler inside of various like team formation channels. You'll see it under Shapecraft. And then some guidelines. This video that Dan Nolan has created, it'll be available on the Alchemy website for Shapecraft. So I'll skip this for the sake of time. And then finally, I think we're approaching the last couple slides. Same thing for judging. Ollie is actually one of the judges. We have 6 judges, and there's like various criteria by which the judging will take place. And then these guidelines are actually part of a tweet that we tweeted from Shape. So Shape_L2 on X and Twitter. Take a look at the pinned tweet, and you can see links to all the judging criteria. And I think that should be it. The last thing, of course, is there's a code of conduct that you agree to when you sign up for Alchemy University's hackathon for Shape. So definitely be a great person. All right, so that is almost the last thing. So this, I'm gonna bring up the stage again. Truly the last thing is just a couple of minutes. I wanted to introduce a surprise guest. Should be like 5 minutes. Befar, who is creating something pretty interesting on Shape. So he built a turn-based strategy game for called the Forest Knight, backed by Animoca. And what he is also building on Shape is an in-game item marketplace. And so definitely an interesting person to chat with as you mingle and eat the food there. And without further ado, Befar, if you can introduce yourself to the Berlin crew.
All right, perfect. Thanks for the intro, Han. Hey, everybody. I don't want to take too much time because the food looks very delicious and I'm hungry as well. But quickly, my name is Behfar. I'm founder and CEO of Chrono Games. We are a Web3 focused game studio based in Hamburg, Germany, the most beautiful city in Germany by far, in my opinion. Yeah, we built a game for the last 3 years called Forest Night, and we kind of went through a lot of hoops and obstacles from in-game economies, from deployment of NFTs, from trading, dealing with marketplaces. And we kind of realized that how the NFT ecosystem is built right now, or at least the trading ecosystem built right now, is the marketplaces are more towards a very general support. So if you go to OpenSea or you go to Magic Eden, you can trade a membership card, you can trade a PFP avatar, but you can also trade a highly complex in-game item as well. So a platform, we don't believe that it's possible to support everything. And we do believe that gaming and gaming economies are one of the, I would say, biggest or more complex economies that you can build from, I mean, we are game developers ourselves. And that's how Kex came to life. Kex is a, K-E-X is actually a, from Kex, from German cookie. The logo is also cookie. And the idea is that the platform is really towards gaming and gaming assets, and really give projects and game developers the tools they need to not only deploy and create creations on chain, but also what do you do after, let's call it post-mint, because a economy needs also maintenance, it needs attention, you need to deploy live ops on top of your economy. So we build these tools for the game developers, but also create a UX for players to be able to trade and find these assets and go beyond just on a marketplace side, but also find these in-game assets within the game through our APIs as well. The idea is how Han really stated very well, Shape really trying to be the web of NFTs in the world. And we believe that for that to happen, you need a platform that enables these creators, this project to really utilize the infrastructure that Shape is allowing us to use. And that's the goal, what Kex is gonna be. So if you have any questions, you are game developers, you are creators, just talk to me. Kex.gg is just going live actually today or tonight. So super excited about that. Thank you very much for the time, and wish you guys the best at the food court and the Mingle. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Befar. Yeah, I'm really excited about Kex. For all the creators and builders who'll be creating in-game items, definitely chat with Befar. He'll be, of course, in there at Berlin. Definitely chat with him, but also on Discord. He'll be available on the Shape Discord. It's what's so interesting about in-game items is that they are tradable. You can find them and acquire them, and so there's a whole economy that will be built on top of Kex. Really excited for it. And without further ado, it is time for food. Thank you very much, Berlin. It was amazing to meet some of you, and love the conversation. Excited to see everything that everyone builds, and enjoy the food. And thanks, everyone. And then we'll end the stream after this very fun video that you saw.